The other day, somebody was telling me about, quote, intermittent fasting, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned to my wife, I was like, oh, maybe I should, try intermittent fasting.
Sure.
Not really being serious, just sort of like a joke. To which she looks at me and replies, like, without even, like, missing a beat, she just says, taking a break in between bites doesn't count as intermittent fasting.
I love your wife.
Yeah, we're doing just fine over here. Everything's fine. Sure. Everything's fine.
Quiet, please.
And you're going to start your intermittent drinking too, aren't you?
Totally.
In 4, 3, 2.
The Apple Company presents a truly terrible podcast. Welcome to Nonsense Season 3, Episode 4. I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm CJ Little.
Want to say that again?
I'm CJ Little. Damn it, I'm CJ Little.
This is our take on the week's business, tech, and entertainment headlines. This time, we'll look at our tech predictions for 2025. The first half, anyway.
Wait, so we're going to do the second half, next week?
Nothing gets by you. It's Pay a Compliment Day. It's amazing how easily you can brighten up someone's day by saying something nice about her or him. Make complimenting others a habit. It's a perfect time to start on Pay a Compliment Day.
Oh, I'm assuming the nothing gets by you snide remark was the compliment. No, not that one?
That was the compliment, yes. Nothing gets by you, my friend.
All right, I love your beard.
How's your week going?
My week's been great. I mean, it always is great. I'm painting. I bought wood, which, by the way, is insanely expensive.
Sure.
And I bought a piece of plywood.
Did you get like birch Baltic? What did you get?
No, I didn't go crazy.
Did you get something exotic?
No, I didn't want to.
Grade A veneer?
I'm cheap as shit.
Okay.
I was eyeballing the half-inch CDX garbage plywood because I'm not.
This is not even like marine grade.
No, I was at Home Depot for Christ's sake with my kid, and I was like, well, I can't get OSB because that's gonna be terrible.
Yeah.
So then I was looking at the basic plywood, and I was like, you know what? Let's get something a little bit thicker. These things are gonna be 100 pounds each that I'm hanging on them. Let's get some 3/4 inch plywood. There's no such thing as 3/4 inch plywood at Home Depot anymore. Your options are 23 30 seconds or 19 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think that's been the case for a long time.
What fucking world do we live in now that I'm buying wood in the 30 seconds? But anyway, here we are. I got my wood. My plan was to paint it and mount shit to it.
Yeah.
But then I was like, when I've done this in the past, the stuff sticks to the things that you mount to it.
Sure.
So I was like, well, how long's the cure period? How long do I need
for latex
for
paint?
This paint to dry? This latex paint to dry?
2 or 3 weeks.
And the answer was 30 days. And I was like, wait, I have enough trouble slowing down my projects myself. Now you're going to help me by taking 3 to 4 weeks to cure? Come on.
Can you do multiple coats without it fully curing?
Yes.
If it's just dry to the touch, can you put the next coat on?
It appears you can, yes.
Okay.
But if you were just painting your walls and leaving them alone, that'd be fine. But I'm not. I'm going to mount a bunch of metal stuff to it. And
you can't mount anything to it.
You can't because the paint's going to adhere to the thing and then peel off. Anyway, that's been my week of first world problems. How about you?
I've been enjoying the rain. The rain has been fantastic that we've been having in Southern California.
Yeah.
That, however, plus reservoir released water equals flooding.
I mean, that's one of the many benefits of the barrage of executive orders that have been released was that executive order demanding rain.
Also, my 90-year-old dad's health took a dip. We had a real health scare. This week has been hard, but he does seem to be recovering. So knock wood. Hang in there, Dad. Love you madly. It is the rematch of the 2023 Super Bowl Sunday. You going to watch?
Well, sorry?
Not your thing?
I mean, first of all, can the Chiefs just give somebody else a chance? Just anybody? Just let somebody else in there. I feel like I kind of need to root for the Chiefs just for them to get the three-peat. And then maybe they can just retire and not come back for a while.
And just get it out of their system and move on.
Yeah. But every time they do the chant and the song, I'm just like, really, guys? Really?
I know.
We're still doing this? Haven't they suffered enough? And then insert casino joke here. And we just move on with our life. That's not how it works. You know what I'm excited about? The commercials and the barbecue that I'm going to make to go with the commercials.
That's the thing everybody likes is the commercials. And that's what everybody likes at your house is the barbecue. I don't know why Uber couldn't send over some of that barbecue to my place.
I was going to send you some barbecue. Now maybe here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to DoorDash Chick-fil-A and then put that in an Uber and send it to you.
I'm not even going to be here. I'm going to be at a Super Bowl party. I'm going to be at a friend's house.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you're going to T-Swift's party. Okay, fine.
The cool thing about the Super Bowl, I think, this year is it is being live streamed on Tubi in 4K for free.
That's cool.
You don't have to subscribe to any streaming service. Literally, Fox owns Tubi, and of course, Foxy is broadcasting the game. But they're putting on Tubi 4K for free. That's pretty great because it is advertising based, and they want as many viewers for the advertising as possible. But that's great.
I'll be curious to see what the split is between streaming on Tubi versus everywhere else. I'm assuming it's going to be really good, so that's great. I'm glad they're doing it.
When you sign up for Tubi, and I don't know if you've ever signed up for Tubi.
I want to pay for it.
When you sign up for Tubi, it's interesting. They ask you your age and your gender.
Okay.
That's so strange.
Well, yeah. What happens is if you say anything other than male and white, then they just turn your service off.
They deport you.
Under the new executive order. Yeah, if you say Indigenous American, then they go, well, you can't watch TV. I'm sorry.
Let's get to our headlines. headlines.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Workers at NASA told to drop everything to scrub mentions of Indigenous people and women from its websites. NASA personnel were told to drop everything to scrub public sites of mention of DEI, Indigenous people, environmental justice, and women in leadership, according to a directive obtained by 404 Media.
So this is super interesting. So apparently some sort of memo went out. This was like a week ago that said, quote, per NASA HQ direction, we are required to scrub mentions of the following terms from our public sites by 5 p.m. today.
Drop everything and do this. Reorganize your day.
Literally, Jeff's not making this up. The second sentence said, this is a drop everything and reprioritize your day request. Now, I don't know about you, but my experience in trying to get anything done in life is the most efficient thing that you can do is to completely stop doing one thing and start doing something else. That is net the most efficient thing.
Always good idea, sure.
And then, and this is a direct quote from the directive, note that the list below is the list that exists this morning, but it may grow as the day goes on. So if you want to implement even more government efficiency, what you should do is ask somebody to do something immediately and tell them they might have to do it again 3 or 4 or 5 more times that day.
And this is such an important thing. We have to drop everything and do it right now.
The Pathfinder will be fine on its own. Just turn on the Pathfinder full self-driving. It'll be okay. It'll just hang out around Mars, and then you just go worry about getting stuff off the website because we can't. We're so triggered.
Speaking of full self-driving, Tesla sales have plummeted in the UK, France, and Germany.
Well, first of all, they haven't had a new model in, I don't know, 10 years, it seems like. You can't buy the Cybertruck there.
Okay.
Because the Cybertruck's too big. I think with your average license, at least in Germany, like the license you get doesn't qualify you to drive a Cybertruck, which is kind of comical to me.
You're pushing a lot of weight.
And this is from a guy who drives a 9,000 pound truck as it is to begin with. So like I'm already...
Well, that's America. That's different.
America. I know. Every time I fire it up, I just coming out of the tailpipe is nothing but apple pie and Miller High Life.
You mentioned licensing requirements in Germany. The Tesla drop in 2024 was 41%.
Yeah.
That sales dropped in 2024, 41%.
Yeah, that's a big drop. Cut in half.
Almost cut in half. Yeah. This January over January, it is a 59% drop.
That's bananas.
In Tesla sales.
That's nuts.
It does, it turns out, matter what things you're spouting out of your mouth and how much you're pissing off the world. By the way, it also matters that your cars don't work.
Sure. I'm not a mathologist, but I'm pretty sure half of half is a quarter. And that seems like a lot less sales there in good old Germany.
It's a big drop in sales.
That's the small country in Europe. Oh, no, wait. That's the big rich one that should be buying this shit.
Think about what's happening in the UK. EV vehicle sales are up 35% in the UK. 35%. Suddenly a third more vehicles that are being purchased are EVs. That's really remarkable. Yeah. And Teslas are down 12%.
You would think the British especially would love the Teslas because they are known for loving cars that they make that have electrical issues. Like
that's true.
If you just slap a Lucas Electronics sticker on the side of a Tesla, I bet you sales would triple. That's my advice to you, Mr. Musk. Just tell them it's made by Lucas.
Speaking of Mr. Musk, DOGE employees have been ordered to stop using Slack.
Oh, yeah.
While the agency transitions to a record system that's not subject to Freedom of Information Act requests.
Well, it's not the record system per se. It's that they have, per executive order, they are moving the agency. So what used to be called the U.S. Digital Service, which was part of the Office of Management and Budget. Yeah. Trump has signed an order doing a couple things. One, renaming it DOGE, because course.
I roll.
And then moving it underneath the White House. So it ultimately would become part of the executive office of the president. And what's interesting about that is then those records will not fall under the jurisdiction of the FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. Instead, it will fall under the Presidential Act, which means that you won't see these until after that administration leaves office, or that you can't request them until after they leave office. This is the Presidential Records Act that was created because of the shit that Nixon did in the 70s.
Sure.
Like that's literally why this act exists. Was like, hey, should probably make sure that all that stuff gets kept and archived. But now you've got a cycle that's going so fast. It's like, I don't know. You might want to know about it now.
I think when Nixon was in office, we should have known about it immediately too.
Well, I mean, I think it's better than nothing, but your point is you can still do better. And as of 2 weeks ago, you could do. Now you can't. You will not be able to do this for DOGE. The public won't have any visibility into what they're doing. I get it if it's like national security, if it's private information, health records of people. I fully understand that. Nor are those things allowed to be FOIA requestable. But this sounds like something that you'd probably want to be able to shine some light on.
They don't want light on it.
No light. Because Slack abides by FOIA, they have an audit component. Because the U.S. Digital Services previously operates underneath the OMB, everything there is archived. They put out a memo saying, stop using Slack while I figure out how to transition. That's really kind of interesting to me because you already have things in Slack previously for the office.
Sure.
The only reason to say stop is that you don't want things to be FOIA.
You don't want things to be revealed.
It's not like you're like running up a bigger bill by using Slack for another 3 days with the audit service. Like, I don't know, like, what's the argument against, like, why should you stop? Again, another wonderful example of efficiency is to stop using the digital services that allow you to intercommunicate and instead do something else or nothing.
Okay, enough of the headlines. Up next, we're going to talk about our tech predictions for 2025.
This is part 1 of 2, everybody.
You do not miss a thing.
Nope, but the day is young.
Let's go. Normally, we would do predictions for technology for the year in January, right?
Yeah.
That would make more sense. It kind of doesn't make a lot of sense to be doing them in February.
Well, no, that's not true. You just didn't want me to upstage you because my prediction for January and for the year was fire. I was right.
Fire, tariffs, and vacations. A few things got in the way of us doing this episode when we would normally do it in January.
My January punch card was fire and washing machines is what I had in the center square. I probably shouldn't say I predicted fire. I think it's how you get a visit from the ATF at your house. So how about we don't say that?
The nice thing about doing this in February is my first prediction is that China will come out with an AI on the level of OpenAI, but using 1% of the resources to create it. And I think I got that one right.
I feel like you just want to pick at this scab to wind me up. Do we have to start this way? I've listened to so many other podcasts over the past couple of weeks that are like, well, these guys, like, they've just done it so much cheaper. And I'm like, if you use the output of another AI, that's like cheating. I'm not saying it's not viable and this isn't the path we're going to take forward, but you are not comparing apples to apples.
We don't know exactly what they did, but the suspicion is
that's also part of the problem.
They may have used. Anyway, that prediction I got dead on right.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
Yeah, I'm 1 for 1 so far.
If we record this show in December for the year, I bet you can get close to 100% accuracy.
So we're going to take turns. You're going to say some predictions, and then I'm going to say some predictions. We don't even have to take turns. You know, if you have 2 in a row you really feel passionate about, go ahead and jump in and do both of them. If I feel the same way, I'll do the same.
I can't believe it's taken us 3 seasons to do a prediction episode. Who would have predicted that?
We had a lot of things we wanted to fit in.
I know. Mainly about AI, I assume, and airplanes.
I'll bet there'll be a lot of predictions about AI. I tried to avoid things that were just like incremental improvements.
Yeah, sure.
But some things are just, my first one is an incremental improvement. Some things just are incremental improvements. My first one is commercially available roll-up and foldable LCD screens.
Oh, interesting.
Now, we've been saying that for a long time that they're coming.
Yeah.
Last year, we had the Huawei Mate XT Ultimate design.
Yeah.
But I'm saying we're going to get that now for lots of devices. We're going to get that for lots of usable things.
And you're saying not just the screen, the whole device, right? Like if you've got a phone in it or a tablet or something like that, like the whole device rolls up.
It's the screen that gets bigger. No, I'm saying it's the screen that will get bigger. You will have the laptop and the screen will actually be able to enlarge
this year.
From what I think we'll get it this year. It's the Huawei that made me think this.
This is the trifold phone, the giant trifold phone that opens up like into a
beautiful
tablet, right?
screen, yes, and it's 3 folds and you get this gorgeous large screen.
Yeah,
and it was created in China, didn't come to the U.S. for whatever reason. Then they were kind of expensive. Yeah. They sold a ton of them in China. Though. Yeah. I think we'll get that for more products. The thing that interests me, it doesn't interest me much for a phone. I really don't care if my phone gets bigger like that. Okay. Wouldn't you like to be able to have a foldable tablet in your pocket?
Just said even able to get like on an airplane and hang up a piece of construction paper in front of you. It's a giant screen. Sounds lovely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like I love the idea.
I'm saying I think this will be the year for roll-up and foldable LCD screens.
A couple questions. Do you believe that they'll be available to everybody or only to communists?
Oh, no, I'm saying they'll be commercially available this year. They've existed for research purposes for a long time. This is going to be the year of their commercialization.
Because you believe that Apple's going to invent them this year. I suspect it's way too early for Apple to jump on this bandwagon. They like to wait until it's a little more.
That's true. Apple's very late to the party.
They'll invent it after it's been well commercialized.
After it's been out for 10 years.
Yeah. I love the idea. I really do. I don't know how far along it is. I've seen some roll-up e-ink displays that seem to be more, and those are really cool because for listeners that aren't as nerdy as us, which I think is everybody, the e-ink paper uses reflected light, which is really great. There's no light source. It's using reflected light from the room. Your Kindle has this. Yeah. It might have a light source in front of the display, but not behind it. And what's great about that is it generally gives you a lot less eye fatigue if you're staring at it for long periods of time.
Reflective surface is unparalleled for reading. Yeah. If you need to read, that is the surface you want to read on.
But what I do that is just convenient is, and I don't really travel much anymore, but I have a large iPad Pro, and I use that as a second display. And that works pretty well. It's not great. It serves most of my use case. And I'm already carrying it, so why not?
It doesn't fold up, though. How much nicer if it would fold up?
Oh, you can fold it. No, you can fold it just one time. It's a single fold. Single fold time.
I'm hoping this year for something that is intentionally foldable.
Yes. Okay. Hopeful, probable, certain.
I'm pretty certain this is going to happen.
Really?
I think,
Oh, man. Okay. I'll tell you hopeful. I'm taking the other side of that bet.
I'll tell you why, because
Okay.
Huawei Mate XT, I saw it last year.
Yeah.
I was blown away by it last year.
Uh-huh.
I cannot imagine other companies are not
Sure.
feeling similarly, seeing that going, this is really useful.
I saw flying cars at CES 20 years ago. That doesn't mean that like that's what's coming tomorrow.
I could be totally wrong. I could be totally, again, these are predictions.
Of course.
We'll see where it goes.
Okay, so you're going with certain, and I'm going with hopeful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you will get laptop computers where you can actually just enlarge the screen.
Like just like pinch and just like brr, the whole thing just zooms in. I love that idea.
Oh, I like that idea. I love that idea.
do love that
I was
idea.
I was thinking
Yeah.
you'll have both the fold out kind, and I think you'll actually have roll up kinds where you can actually extend the screen.
I don't even know if I can say hopeful on that. I feel like you're living like a Looney Tunes cartoon. Like you're like the Acme, and like you're just the coyote that's got like the roll up screen. Everything comes out. I mean, I love this vision. Like,
But you saw the Huawei Mate XT. Don't you think everybody's going to do the same thing?
move over, Kurzweil. Jeff's here with his prediction. Jeff Parker, forget the singularity. We got roll up screens. I love that prediction. I think that's great. That is not what I was thinking about. I don't think this is incremental, but let me just tell you, and you can yell at me. I do believe that you're going to see AI become standard in the workforce this year.
What workforce? I mean, yeah, I think it already is in most workforces.
I mean, is it across the board? I feel like high tech for sure, but has it gotten to like the middle segment of information work? I don't know. Has it?
like what? Like, give me an example where you think it isn't where it will be later this year.
I know some people in probably every industry certainly are, but I don't feel like the masses are. Like if you've got the folks that are doing flyer design for the YMCA's upcoming baked goods,
Sure.
fundraiser drive, are they using AI to help make that?
I think so.
Like I'm thinking like straight like middle of the road. Like let me give you my example.
Yeah.
To me, this is like calculator, word processor, email, right? Like you had plenty of businesses that did great without email in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
And now you couldn't even think of running a business without email, right? Or a word processor. Okay?
Oh, I think of it all the time. I dream of it because I hate emails so much.
You want to go
But that's
back
just
to
me.
that? That's your other prediction? We're going to get rid of email. Email is going to outlive the heat death of the universe. So email is like the cockroach of technology. It's never going anywhere.
I hate email.
I also hate email, but I'm just saying that I feel like AI now is just going to be table stakes.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe it's already gotten there for most, but I'm talking about, again, like the YMCA in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Like those guys.
They're already using
because it's gotten so accessible for so many things. From Apple Intelligence, which I agree is still
Garbage.
kind of cutesy, but I think that'll continue to get better. Copilot does a great job of this, where it's just
great.
plugged into Word. You're in Gemini too.
Yeah, sure.
You're in the Word suite, you're in the G suite, and you just like push this button and you get a thing that you otherwise didn't have before.
By the way, Microsoft immediately embraced DeepSeek.
Look, the obvious things to me are you're going to get the productivity and efficiency enhancements. You're going to see more generative content, not in a tip to tail, but like in bits, in chunks, as opposed to just like, here's like a big output. I want elements of my flyer for the baked goods drive that'll have some generative elements. But I also think you're going to see a lot more of this in data. And I'm cautious to say data analysis, but like very low scale data where, and you've already seen it if you're using like Google Sheets with Gemini, you're seeing it make suggestions that I think are really helpful. They're not always right, but it's like, hey, are you going down this path? And you could it's like a real-time wizard that's figuring out what you're doing and then helping you achieve some of these goals. So if you're analyzing data for how your baked goods sales went, and you go, oh, turns out people like chocolate chip cookies. That's gonna be easier to get to. I'm just saying the YMCA, buy stock in the YMCA in Oklahoma City. It's gonna blow up. That thing's a 2Xer.
We needed AI to find out that people like chocolate chip cookies. We needed to spend $80 billion to find out people like chocolate chip cookies.
Don't say it out loud. The money will stop. So, okay, maybe this is a layup. Maybe this one's already done, but I do think I feel like this is certain.
I'll take certain on that too. I mean, I think
it's already
certain,
there.
Certain / past tense.
Past tense. Okay. All right. So I'm off to a great start. How about you? Okay, what do you got next?
I have an AI one too, which I'll just shorten. And for time reasons, we got to make these a little shorter.
Never stopped us before.
This is going to be the year of big AI regulation.
Oh, yeah.
And it will be entirely ineffective.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that you're going to see a bunch of AI regulation and you think it's going to be ineffective?
Absolutely.
Do you have any more color on that?
There'll be places that ban AI and you'll just get around it with a VPN.
Okay.
There'll be places that put all sorts of restrictions on AI and you'll just get around it by using a different AI that doesn't have those restrictions.
On the consumption side, but do you see any regulation on the production side? Do you think that's coming this year? The OpenAIs, the Anthropics of the world.
Yeah, they'll have to obey their local regulations, but there's so many that are not within the jurisdiction of this country or that country that will just completely not observe those regulations.
Okay.
So there will be no stopping you from using AI however you want to use it.
It seems seems reasonable that will be, I don't want to say persisted by, but certainly enabled by and increased by the open source nature of what you're seeing with llamas.
I was going to say, with open source, you literally could take off all the guardrails anytime you want.
Well, they're all off. It's all there, right? Here's all the code. Like, go to town. Okay, a couple things that I think are interesting about that comment. I have one that's loosely related to this, but a little bit different. One, while I agree on the general premise of that with open source especially, I think there's two other things that are worth noting. One is that you have sort of the like do-it-yourself open source thing, right? Sort of the hacker mentality. Some companies will certainly do that. It's going to be harder to stamp them out with regulation, just like it is with data right now, right? Even with places like that have GDPR, it's hard to know if you're not using a service what you're doing, and that ends up coming out through the court system. Typically, if you're a larger company, right, you're doing something bad with the data, you've got a leak, now you get a lawsuit, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
I assume something similar with AI, probably harder to figure that out.
Here's the problem, especially if you look at something like DeepSeek, which can be run on just a fraction of the amount of hardware as previous versions of AI.
Sure.
As that amount of hardware required decreases, more and more people will be able to run AI. More and more people will be able to just take away the guardrails.
You got the whack-a-mole of like Pirates Bay, right? Like shit's just running on random hardware.
There's no way you're going to keep up with it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I still think that a lot of businesses are going to be going to turnkey operators for this, especially if open source puts cost pressure to drive that down. The open source issues in theory should make things more efficient, which means your cogs are less if you're an operator for this. And there's going to be companies that don't want to deal with this shit and they want to just use what's out there.
Sure.
I'm not saying there won't be exceptions, but I think that is one competing force. The other competing force, though, that I think is worth sort of articulating here is that having the code's not enough. You need the model as well. And if the folks that are making the model are under some regulation, right, and have some effort because they're going to be only very large businesses with lots of money, they're going to continue to presumably follow some modicum of the law. So because you do need the model. Remember, the code's not enough. And if you're using a model that was built under, I'm going to be hypothetical here. If you've got some copyright AI guidelines where you can't just go slurp up everything off the interwebs and throw it into your model, well, it's going to be harder for someone else to train on top of that. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying it's going to have a lot more cost. Yeah. That's going to come at risk of you getting shut down.
However, that other country that doesn't have those same rules, they can slurp it up and put it in however they want.
And here's what's fascinating about it.
Bye regulations.
So you slurp it up. Think of the I think we did a show, or we did a part of a segment about the Principality of Sealand.
I remember.
These are the dudes that are going to be like the internet bastion of the 2000s, right? There's going to be all the back room, the gambling, the online shit, because they had no international jurisdiction, right? They were this old like military platform off the coast of the UK. I see something like that, but here's what's fascinating. Once you build that model, the one I'm telling you that like only the big guys are going to build and it's going to be under the guidelines. Once you build that model in the darkness of night with everyone's copyrighted data, it's really hard to know what went in.
Sure.
Really hard to know.
Of course.
And then you just distribute that and that becomes your seed.
Right.
And now you're just like, oh, I've got all, like the dark web. I've got the Silk Road model of everything.
Which all the other AIs then slurp up.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I'm going to add one thing to because I have a similar-ish prediction to this. I do think you're going to see regulation. I think you're going to see it come out of Europe first.
Because they do all the ballsy regulation first.
Are you going to take every one of my predictions and be like, well, that's fucking obvious?
No.
I think the sun's going to rise tomorrow. I'm going out on a limb here.
The U.S. has no guts. We do no regulation against tech. It is all happening in the EU.
I'm going to go ahead and throw it on a certain on this one, on both parts. I think you're going to see it come out of Europe, and I also think that it is mostly going to be ineffective, at least in the first year.
100%.
So I'm with you on this.
100%.
I think you're going to see more and more homes with electricity. No, just kidding.
Okay, Thomas Edison. Good for you.
I like to really go out on a limb here because of the enablements you're getting, not just with AI, but with tech at large. Yeah. Certainly a big part of that is AI. And I'm thinking like all of the things that are way down at the edge that the consumer is adjacent to. So like anything from like contactless payments, getting like an experience before you get to the point of transaction, whether it's could be something as not interesting as like a marketing funnel. Basically what I'm getting at here, like the back house automation. Think about at scale Amazon and how much tech they're using in that sort of back house automation. I do think, maybe not as certain, that you're going to see the opportunity for there to be more human interaction and more focus on human interaction as part of I'll call it like the retail sales experience. Mm-hmm. That could be interesting because now you still have people. I don't see a world where you're going to have, every storefront being like an Amazon Go. I think there's a place for it, right? The Mamba Center is a great example.
Love it.
Where I don't want to see a human. I want to come in, I want to transact and get the $20 beer.
As fast as possible.
Exactly. You want to get back to the game. Makes total sense. But I can see a world where like I don't have a robot robot bringing me my lunch at Panini Grill. I want to go in and have a conversation about what to get and have the ability for them to have more time for them to talk to me about what it is. So I do think you'll see more human interaction because that's the only thing you can really do to compete with a transactional experience.
Yeah.
The Amazon Go is the Amazon of the world. I think ironically, the tech that's enabled Amazon to do what they do, back office logistics so well, is ultimately what's going to enable the humans to do this part, right? Because they don't have to manage the shoe counting in the back of the shoe store.
Sure. You can spend your money in other ways.
Yeah.
You can make the experience better. Yeah.
I don't think we're ready for the kiosk experience yet. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to walk into the store and just talk to an AI mirror about what shoes to get. I want to talk to a human that can tell me stories about the shoes.
And I think that'll be the case on the high end. I think on the lower end, you're going to get more and more AI.
You're going to see the opposite. You're going to see more transactional.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, presumably because
you got to squish costs out.
Less margin. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. So I put myself in the middle on this one. I'm not certain.
AI being used in stores.
Tech, not just AI, tech at large, enabling the retail segment to focus more on human interactions. I think you'll see more people interfacing with each other because of tech.
Yep.
That's what I'm going with.
And now we're rating where we think this lies. Go ahead.
I'm going to go with probable, right in the middle.
I'll go with hopeful. That seems like you're Buck Rogers. You're way in the future for that sort of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're still exploring how many humans can we get rid of.
Yeah, but
and at some point we will correct and we will say
that's funny. That's your view because I feel like you might be running towards the end of that. That's kind of my point. Is you're running.
I would love that.
You're running towards the end of it. Like if I still want to stay competitive, I can't get rid of everybody.
Okay.
You know, especially and I'm thinking really the retail sector is where that's coming from. But I'm not sold on this. I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
All right, you go.
Holographic displays.
Oh, I like this. In what applications?
I think this is probably the year of holographic displays, but for commercial use. I don't think we're ready to have them just for
personal use,
civilian use. I think we'll probably have holographic 3D telepresence.
Oh, interesting.
Go to a meeting and see somebody in 3D who's thousands and thousands of miles away.
Well, that's going to be problematic though, because if you want to do that with me, you're going to need at least 2 of those machines to get the image up big enough.
Extra wide.
2 of the images. It just seg faults. It just shows up a holographic blue screen. They're like image too big to process.
Even more likely than holographic 3D telepresence, which might be my Buck Rogers idea.
Sure.
Is medical imaging.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get 3D medical imaging. This will be the year for it.
What do you mean? How do you see the 3D medical imaging? Because we have that now to a certain extent.
Yeah, to a certain extent we do, but what you can project it on is very limited. You will be able to
I see.
Bring the knee holographically up and see exactly where the damage is before you get in to do the operation.
See all my fucking torn up meniscus right in front of me?
Yeah, you'll be able to do surgical planning with this 3D thing in the air in front of you that looks exactly like and is exactly what is
as an image of.
Yeah, what you're going to cut open in a few minutes. You can see what you're going to be doing before you do it in much more detail.
Interesting. So you can think of that, or at least I think of that as it's a direct competitor to what we've seen and done with AR and VR, but now you've gotten rid of the goggles.
Yeah.
Like it's right there for you in real life.
Yeah,
that's cool.
100%.
And now what are you basing your prediction on? You've seen stuff like this, like whatever, CES or whatnot?
I've seen the beginnings of holographic displays. I've not seen anything. Really what I saw was like a transparent TV.
Sure.
You know, you're 2 inches away when you see the good projectors that are projecting things. I don't know if you've seen, like LCD projectors now are amazing. There's so much brightness to the image now.
Incredible.
It looks so good.
Incredible.
Yes.
And the short throw ones break my brain. The ones that you tuck up against the wall, and I'm like, that is a lot of light to be putting out in a very small area to make that projection work. They're really cool.
It's absolutely amazing. The days of the washed out screen are just gone.
Yeah.
They're so much better if you go to a movie theater where they have a short throw projector. You're seeing so much of a better image than you were ever going to see projected from a mechanical projector.
Sure. I haven't seen anything in the past couple of years, so I don't know what advances there have been in light output, but as of a couple of years ago, if you're in direct sunlight, it was still pretty hard to see.
Oh no, those days are over.
Is it really? Wow. Is that a function of screen? Like the screen backing, like a silver screen or something that's doing something interesting with sunlight?
I don't think so, because they're projecting things on all sorts of things now.
Oh, wow.
It's a ton of light. But your phone screen is now doing 3,000 nits.
That's a lot of light. I mean, that is a lot of light. Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, that's what I'm basing that on.
Sure.
I think you're going to get 3D modeling. I think you're going to get virtual prototyping. Anything that you can sort of create the illusion of it being up in 3D. Well, now I can really create some cool holographic imagery.
And you're saying commercial level, not like prosumer yet?
Not yet.
Okay. I can buy this. I don't know enough about it to say I'd be certain, but I put myself in the middle on this one.
I'm not certain either. I just think it's probable.
I love the idea.
I think we're right just here on the verge of it.
I mean, humans don't do, we've forced ourselves to do good in 2D. We don't really do very well in 2D. We do much better in 3D.
We do the best we can. You pull it up in 3D, we're going to do really well.
I was trying to explain to one of my kids the other day that you can't really see anything in 2D. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, I can just see it. It's just drawing. I was like, well, the pencil has a thickness and there's, there's like little molecules of lead there.
Graphite.
And then I was like, man, I'm just doing these kids a disservice. No, we actually use lead pencils here.
Do you?
Yeah. We like the time of the 60s. It's great.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Kids like to chew on them. I like this. Holograms are, I I feel like I've been waiting for 30 years for more holograms. So
Yeah, for sure. I think this potentially could be the year commercially. I think on the prosumer level, you're going to see transparent TVs, which are a similar idea.
I'm assuming a lot of our listeners of similar tech vein and age as us. Do you remember Captain EO at Disneyland?
Of course.
If I could get one of like a prosumer version of those holograms, I would just have that little flying rat next to my desk the entire time. Just a little Captain EO flying. He doesn't even talk. He just hangs out. That would be my Clippy. That would be my personal assistant. I would just ask it to do shit for me. If I could just see him buzz off and then, come back with a 12-inch sub from Fat Sal's, it'd be great.
There'll be transparent TVs both for decorative reasons, and I think you'll get informative public displays that vanish when they're not needed. You could also get nav systems on your windshield. Think about your windshield turning into a giant map that you can see through.
There are very few things about modern cars that I sort of pine over.
Yeah.
Good heads-up display is one of them. And I'd argue they haven't pushed as much as they could. Yeah.
Imagine the heads-up display being your windshield, not some box where you're looking away from the road.
Well, no, that's what I mean. No, they have those. They bounce off the windshield, so you're looking straight through it.
Yeah, tiny amounts.
They're very tiny. But instead, I'd have YouTube up.
That's precisely what they don't want you to do.
America, fuck you. I'll put up YouTube if I want.
So I'm putting that probable.
Yeah, okay, I'll take probable on that one. Okay, this is a bigger one.
Okay.
I do think we are at this sort of tipping point, I would say, for information communication, especially news, where we've seen, and maybe I'm just starting to pay more attention to this, but because of, again, AI, generative AI, to both write content and make images and deep fake videos and whatnot, that now you have a couple different things afoot. Some people that just can't identify if something is real or not. Something like 52% of the people struggle to identify if information is genuine.
If news is real, if the headlines are real.
Yeah, exactly. And technology got us there. So my belief here is that technology is going to help get us out. And I can't tell you for certain what the path is. I've been doing some thinking around this, but I got to imagine technology is really the only way out, right? You dig the hole with the tech, you find the path out.
You find the way out
with the tech.
I don't know. I think people just become more skeptical. I mean, when the printing press became a thing, everybody said, "Oh wow, now you can really spread lies, super quickly. We'll never know if somebody really said something or not." And I think what happened was people just became more critical.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at what's out there and the fact that so many people have a hard time knowing what's real or not. And I'm excluding the folks that just want to believe, right? There's a lot of folks that want to believe in information that's not true because it resonates with them. But
yes,
I do think you're going to see some movement on this, and I do believe it will be in technology.
I love that idea. I hope that's the case. I'm going to put that probable.
I'm probable plus. I'm between probable and certain. I do think this is a multi-year problem. I don't think this is going to be like solved this year, but I think you're going to see progress made in this because I think you have to. If we don't, I believe what's left of the walls crumbles, and that's not good.
There are so many people who have stake in the truth not being told that this becomes a hard thing to really know when this will happen.
Yeah, but I'm going to remain somewhat optimistic as long as I can that you get enough people that get burnt by it, even ones that are believers at some point in whatever their own misinformation bit is, that at some point get burnt by some other misinformation. They go, you know what? No. And if you can find a path where folks can get back towards something that resembles the truth and don't have a debate over whose truth, but like really what the truth is. I'm now trying to describe truth to people because like, what does that mean? And I'm like, let me give it to you this way. If we were to just burn all of the books and all of the data and everything everywhere in 1,000 years, what comes back, that's the truth.
Would still be this. Yeah, sure.
Like the things that are the overlap, like, physics is a great example.
Yeah, math.
It's not going to change. Math is not going to change.
Right.
Like pretty much everything that we etched on the gold disc that we put on the Voyager, not everything, but most everything we put on there, right? Like those are the truths, and those are the things that I'm really talking about. But I digress. So okay, so you're at a probable.
I'm going probable. You're going probable plus. I didn't know it had plus minus. I didn't know that was a thing.
I'm probable plus. I'd even lean a little bit towards certainty. I'll go with certainty. I knew you were going to say that. I'll go with certainty. I'm not going to do a plus minus. Ruin this. So okay, yeah. So that's my tipping point for comms.
I'm only probable because I think there's so many people who have stakes in
not having something like
the
this.
truth not being told. Yes,
there are. You're absolutely right. There are. I think the question becomes, what's there more of? And at what point, what does that tipping point look like? I'm just saying we're going to hit that tipping point, I think, this year.
I think we have reached the point as a culture, at least in the United States, where we say not all point of views are equal.
How do you know what that means?
It took us a long time to get here.
What do you mean not all points of view are not equal?
20 years ago, we used to say, oh, everybody's point of view is equal. Everybody's, the way they see, you see the sky as blue, I see the sky as green, and our points of view, that's just how you see the world, and our points of view are of equal value. And I think we're at the point now where that's just like...
Was I sleeping that day? I don't remember that.
I hope you were, because that was a dreadful time. I think those days are over.
There are things that are shades of gray, certainly, and some subjectivity, but I think I'm talking about just the shit that's like objective fact.
Yeah.
I think what happens is a lot of folks, they have really blurred the lines between the objective facts and the conclusion. And they draw their own conclusion. Well, those are the facts. And I'm like, no, that's your conclusion. But of what facts? Like, let's talk. And then they don't have the facts.
Yeah, sure.
And then you just realize they heard some Muppet talk about it on fucking TikTok. Like, all right.
I think Muppets mostly tell the truth. I might be biased because I grew up with Sesame Street, so I might be biased.
I would take all my news from the Muppets. Like, if there was a Muppet news station, I would subscribe right now.
Sure.
Just take it from the Muppets. It would be great. If everything had like some sort of weird pig and frog like veneer over it, I'd love it. It'd be great.
You ready for this one? I got another one. It's like, I did holographic displays, transparent TVs, and I'm basically on the same vein. Ready for this? You're going to think I'm the last person who's on board for this.
Now I want to guess the last person on board with this. So many things.
Yeah. Glasses, eyeglasses,
wearables
that are computer monitors like the Vision Pros, but powered off USB from the phone in your pocket or from your laptop computer. One cord, just going to the USB.
Okay.
That's all you need. The computing is done on the phone or is done on the...
So display device, basically. No compute, very little compute.
A display device, it can have beamform sound even so that you can hear things and other people can't hear them.
Sure.
But I think the idea of hands-free information, real-time data in your eyeglasses, in your eyes, is a useful thing.
Yeah.
Not when you can't see through them.
Oh, yeah.
You do need to be able to see through them to see the world around you.
AR versus VR. Sure. I agree with that.
Correct.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think that'll happen this year.
This is not what you're saying, but it's sort of how I do think of this. You need a much, much, much lighter weight version of, the Apple
Vision Pro. You're going to get that this year.
And probably something that's like a +1 or +2 increments past what you see with the Meta Ray-Bans.
Yeah.
I do believe you're going to converge on that. I really like the idea of them being extremely low power, especially if the display is low power and then you've got some battery in it. The problem is the battery is heavy, and if you put it on your head anywhere...
It's not going to be a heavy battery. It's going to be powered out of the USB from your device.
I don't love the idea of a wire going down my back out of my glasses.
Well, give it a few generations, that'll go wireless.
Sure.
But right now, it's going to start out with a wire. Your headphones started out with a wire. We all survived.
I don't want to commit to the wired or non-wired part, but I certainly will commit, and I will put a certain stamp on augmented vision displays getting smaller and lighter, and pardon the pun here, more transparent.
Yeah.
Like not only transparent to look through, but just more transparent for you to wear and operate.
Sure.
I believe it. I believe that's going to be a thing.
And I'll put a certainty stamp all the way on the power. I'll put the cords in your pocket. It's going into USB on your phone.
Give me a cable.
Or on your laptop, whatever you want to power it from.
Okay, I'm going to be very specific here in your prediction. What's the plug going to be on the device? On the actual...
USB-C.
You're going to shove a giant USB-C plug somewhere on that thing? Like,
I'm still going to have big arms because there are some electronics I have to put in that thing.
So fat arm, okay.
I can make the glasses small. I don't have to make them heavy. I'm not going to make the arms heavy, but I do have to have...
You make the tail of the back of the arm, goes behind your ear.
I do have to have some room for some electronics.
What do we put out as humans? Something like 25 or 30 watts of heat of our whole body? Like, you can probably get a couple watts out of your head. Like, if you can figure out how to make it efficient enough that it can run off like a half a watt and just pull that in heat that comes out of your head. Now you're talking.
Well, that's fantastic for you, future boy. You'll get there. I'm talking about what will exist this year.
Okay.
And I'm going to say small glasses, much smaller than Vision Pros, lighter, powered off of your phone or your tablet this year. All these glasses devices have some sort of either batteries in them, which make them heavy, or they have some sort of wire connecting them to computers.
So I'll give you a certain on this.
I'm certain of that, too.
While we're in a Waymo watching Tupac on a hologram. That's what we should do, all of those things together.
Wow.
Just knock it all out.
Your turn.
All right. So this one, you're probably also going to yell at me and say that it's kind of already a thing. I'm going to call it an increased split. So a continuation of the split between return to work mandates and employees and remote work. And I do think that what we've seen, especially post-pandemic till now, has been most of the folks that are the better skilled and better employees are the ones that have realized they have options and have left companies that are mandating return to works. I think you're going to see more focus on what I would call like a task-based job versus a role-based job, because ultimately that's how you tell better if someone's delivering what they're supposed to be delivering, especially remotely.
Sure.
I am optimistic, not confident certainly, but I'm optimistic that because you have this, it's going to necessitate better managers that know how to qualify those folks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is always the problem with managers who just want time logged in the office is how we're quantifying what you're doing.
I think that's been the biggest barrier to remote work spreading its wings has been the managers that don't know how to manage it. And I think now you're going to see more and more folks because we know there's a labor pool of folks that can do really great work and not have to be in an office. So it's going to necessitate that managers rise to that occasion. And I think you're going to see some existing managers that cross over. You're going to see, just as you do through the course of your career, you develop into a manager that came from a world of remote working. And I do think you're going to see more of that this year.
We're going to see more remote working because managers will get better. Is that the prediction?
I think you're going to see more companies embracing remote working. Yes, more remote working because they realize the talent pool rule is there.
I was shocked when the United States government, the federal government, all of a sudden had a return to work mandate.
Well, that was done along the same time as an elective severance policy as well, right? Where you're just like, I don't want to do this.
Come back to work or retire.
Here's my problem with all of this. The folks that take that are the ones that have the most options.
Well, of course.
They're going to be like, well, fuck yeah, I'll take a severance for N months.
Sure.
And we'll get a job somewhere else. Of course. So if you don't put guide rails on, and look, I'm a fan of efficiency, and I think
you're going to get all the worst employees.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of places that we can add efficiency in any big business, and is certainly in government. But I think putting out a broad stroke, hey, whoever wants to go, you can go, and we're going to pay you to leave.
Yeah.
You're going to get a bunch of people that leave, and especially if they don't believe in the vision.
Yeah.
And I've been pretty successful at getting folks to want to do things and build stuff because of the vision, not just the money. You can always go make more money somewhere else.
Sure.
But like, are you engaged in the work? Do you believe in the work? And it appears, I don't think we have enough data to know for sure, but it appears that the up and coming workforce is more interested in jobs that resonate with what they believe in, right? Sort of passion jobs.
That happens until they have kids who need to go to private school.
Yeah, I know I get that, but if you can make the two align, right? It's even better.
Yeah.
If you've got to choose between a job that gets you good pay and provides you with the satisfaction of doing something you want, or another job that maybe makes you good pay plus a little bit, but you hate. I think a lot of folks, especially thinking about their own sort of mental well-being, are going to choose the former, not the latter. I'm probable plus. I'll throw my hat into certainty.
Yeah, me too.
Around that, at least over the next year.
I think it's probable. I got one more too. Ready?
Hit me.
Satellite internet services would become more common and used more widely for more things.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that's a lot.
This is the year. A lot of money got invested in SpaceX's Starlink and Amazon's Project Kuiper and lots of other services.
Yep.
And I think you're going to get a lot more connectivity in maritime and aviation. And I think some of that's already happening.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking about just emergency use.
Yeah. Everyday use. I
don't know about everyday use, but I will say backup connectivity. Your internet drops, and guess what? You still have internet because you have the Sky internet, and maybe it's a little slower or whatever, but you have backup connectivity. Weather is still a big issue there too.
Have you used any of like the Starlink services?
I played with it, yeah.
It's pretty damn good. It's out of the backup category. You got low latency.
It works.
Relatively high bandwidth.
Cost-wise, it's not out of the backup category. It's still a backup because it's not cheap.
It's not that expensive. We're talking like $100, $150.
Yeah.
Even with a roaming service, like relative to, for the same speed in a fixed location, you're going to spend probably half of that, give or take, maybe a third. It's not like it's, for example, Iridium's, right? Just voice on Iridium 15 years ago. That was unobtainium, right? You had to spend, you really needed to have a link everywhere you went. And now it's like, I want to check my email when I'm camping with my kids.
You can do it.
And I think it's in that same realm of obtainium. I'd say I'm certain on this. This is only going in one direction.
Yeah, I'm certain on this too.
Yeah.
All right, we have to get out of here quickly before we do. Have you seen or read anything good this last week?
Yes. Not read.
Yeah.
I think you're going to love this one. You know that I like to laugh.
I do.
Which is really why I do this show, mainly.
For the laughs, sure.
Yeah, I like to laugh. I like to hear myself say things funny and then laugh at them. That's really how I think of it.
Okay, good.
I think there's very few things that I find more amusing and hysterical than watching good friends joking with each other, especially people that know each other well.
Sure.
I don't think anyone else is doing this as well currently as Colin Jost and Michael Shea on SNL's Weekend Update.
Oh, and we're going to be so sad when they decide they don't want to do it anymore.
I know.
Because all these people eventually decide they don't want to do it anymore.
I really hope that it is measured in decades and not years.
What a treat they have been. Now, I was a huge fan of Norm Macdonald.
Of course.
Very different show. I was very sad when Norm Macdonald ended his run there.
Yeah.
And I liked Tina Fey and I liked Jimmy Fallon, and they were all
Tina Fey was great.
But man, Colin Jost and Michael Shea, they've passed a decade of doing this.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. And they're still so good.
Yeah.
For those that don't follow them, once a year, usually around Christmas time, they write jokes for each other to read on the air, but neither of them know what the other has written until airtime. And they go after one another. Like every year, I feel like they try to ratchet it up a little bit. It's amazing. It's something I actually look forward to every year to watching it. And I'm guaranteed to laugh hard every year they do this. It's only a couple jokes. There are like 2 or 3 jokes for each of them, but they pulled no punches. You can really see the mutual respect and love they have for each other while going through this. I'm not going to tell any of their jokes here. I could not do their segment justice, nor would I want to spoil the surprise. But if you haven't seen it, go watch it on Peacock or on YouTube. I'll put a link in the show notes. It's only 6 minutes long. It's pretty hard to come out of it not laughing, has been my experience. If this is fake, if these guys are not actually doing this as they say, then they both need to win all of the Emmys and all of the Oscars because it's so goddamn funny. And their reaction to this, like they're just broken. They're both they're not even characters. They're just broken the whole time they're doing this. and it's fantastic. Anyway, that was my enjoyment for the week and what I watched. How about you?
I'm going to say FireAid. It's a 6-hour concert that happened in 2 venues. I'm going to call it the Steve Ballmer Show because they were both his venues.
Just the one where he ran around saying musicians, musicians, musicians.
He should have. Steve and Connie Ballmer also matched dollar for dollar every contribution, which was mind-blowing.
Yeah, that was awesome.
The concert took place in Inglewood, California on January 30th, 2025 and was organized by the Annenberg Foundation.
Yeah.
It raised funds to help those affected by the January 2025 Southern California wildfires, as well as funds to help prevent future wildfires in the area. Earth, Wind, and Fire, Katy Perry, Sting, Lady Gaga, Rod Stewart, Stevie Wonder, Alanis Morissette, Joni Mitchell, Stevie Nicks, Nirvana with Dave Grohl's daughter, Violet Grohl, John Fogerty, and more. I mean, it was an incredible 6-hour concert. If you missed it, you can still catch it on YouTube now.
Yeah, I haven't been through the whole thing, but Billy Crystal's Open is great.
Sensational.
Because he was affected by the fires. I do kind of want to talk to the person, I presume at the Annenberg Foundation, who had to call Earth, Wind, and Fire and ask them to play. Like, they're like,
can we change your name?
Can we just call you EWF? Can we just change your name to anything? Just something, helicopters dropping water. Earth, Wind, and Fire, we just...
a little too on the nose.
Too on the nose. I'm in the middle of checking that out, so I'm already almost there because you told me about this earlier, but I will certainly watch the rest of it.
So good, and I'm so impressed with Steve Ballmer yet again. He and his wife Connie are just incredible. As good as humans get.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That is the episode.
Thank you for joining us for all this nonsense. It's really terrible podcast from The Awful Company. Visit us on the web at nonsense.productions. I'm Stu Little.
I'm Jeff Parker.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like at Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, AntennaPod, iHeartRadio, Spotify, my favorite Overcast, or wherever you may get your podcasts from.
Nonsense is brought to you by the Ice Water Council. Nothing quenches thirst like a nice tall glass of ice water. Also, be sure and try our environmentally friendly tap ice water. All the goodness of ice water, locally brewed. Ice water, delicious. Special thanks to our floor director, Venkat Mudiala.
Thanks, Reddy. We'll be here every Thursday morning for more nonsense. Please join us. We really got to find some better advertisers.